"Well," said Aunt Agatha as I trickled into the sitting room. "Well, yes and no." "What do you mean? Did she refuse the money?" "Not exactly. She accepted it." "Well, there again, not precisely." I explained what had happened. I wasn't expecting her to be any too frightfully pleased, and it's just as well that I wasn't, because she wasn't. In fact, as the story unfolded, her comments became fruitier and fruitier, and when I'd finished, she uttered an exclamation that nearly broke a window. "I'd never heard of anything so spineless in my life," she said. I shivered like a warrior whose old wound hurts him. "I'd be most awfully obliged, Aunt Agatha, if you would not use that word spine. It awakens memories." At that moment the door opened. Jeeves appeared. "Sir?" "Yes, Jeeves." "I thought you called, sir." "No, Jeeves." "Very good, sir." Now, seeing Jeeves standing there with the light of intelligence simply fizzing in every feature, I suddenly felt how perfectly footling it was to give this preeminent source of balm and comfort the go-by, simply because Aunt Agatha had prejudices against discussing family affairs with the staff. I decided to do as we ought to have done right from the start. "Jeeves, this matter of Uncle George." "Yes, sir." "You know the circs." "Yes, sir." "You know what we want." "Yes, sir." "Then advise us and make it snappy. Think on your feet." "I understand that you have been visiting the young person's home, sir." "Yes, just got back." "Then you no doubt encountered the young person's aunt." "Jeeves, I encountered nothing else but." "I would recommend that you confronted his lordship with this woman," said Jeeves. "It has always been her intention to continue residing with her niece after the latter's marriage. Should he meet her, this reflection might give his lordship pause." "Jeeves, you're right, apart from anything, that orange hair." "Precisely, sir." I'll ask her to lunch tomorrow to meet him. You see, Aunt Agatha, a ripe suggestion first crack out of the box. Did I or did I not tell you?" "That will do, Jeeves," interrupted Aunt Agatha. "Very good, madam." "Bertie," she said, "you'll go and see this girl again tomorrow, and this time you will do as I told you." "But dash it, with this excellent alternative scheme based firmly on the psychology of the individual—" "That is quite enough, Bertie. You heard what I said. I'm going. Goodbye." She buzzed off, little knowing of what stuff Bertie Wooster is made of. "Jeeves," I said, "the recent aunt will have none of your excellent alternative schemes, but nonetheless I propose to go through with it unswervingly. I consider it a ball of fun. Can you get hold of this female and bring her here for lunch tomorrow?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Meanwhile, I'll be phoning Uncle George. We'll do Aunt Agatha good despite herself. What is it the poet says, Jeeves?" "The poet Burns, sir?" "No, not the poet Burns. Some other poet. About doing good by stealth." "These little acts of unremembered kindness, sir?" "That's it in a nutshell, Jeeves." Uncle George by himself is a mouldy enough luncheon companion, being extremely apt to collar the conversation and confine it to a description of his symptoms. He being one of these birds who can never be brought to believe that the general public isn't agog to hear all about the lining of his stomach. Add the aunt, and you have a little gathering which might well dismay the stoutest. Jeeves came in with the cocktails. I was feeling pretty low. I can readily imagine that this will prove something of an ordeal, sir. How do you get to know these people, Jeeves? It was through a young fellow of my acquaintance, Colonel Mainwaring Smith's personal gentleman's gentleman. He and the young person had an understanding at the time, and he desired to accompany him to Wisteria Lodge and meet her. They were engaged? Not precisely engaged, sir, an understanding. What did they quarrel about? They didn't quarrel, sir. When his lordship began to pay his addresses, the young person, naturally flattered, began to waver between love and ambition, said Jeeves. Ah, then if your scheme works and Uncle George edges out, it'll do your pal a bit of good. Yes, sir, Smithers would consider it a consummation devoutly to be wished, sir. Rather well put that, Jeeves. Your own? No, sir. An unseen hand without tootled on the bell, and I braced myself to play the host. The binge was on. Mrs. Wilberforce, sir, announced Jeeves. And how am I to keep a straight face with you standing behind and saying, "Madam, can I tempt you with a potato?" is more than I know, said the aunt, sailing in, looking larger and pinker and meatier than ever. I know him, you know, she said. He has been round and taken tea with us. So he told me, I said. You've got a nice place here, she said, though I like more pink about. It's so cheerful. What's that you've got there? Cocktails? Martini with a spot of absinthe, I said, beginning to pour. She gave a girlish squeal. Oh, don't you try to make me drink that stuff. Do you know what would happen if I touched one of those things? I'd be wrecked with pain. What they'd do to the lining of your stomach. Oh, I don't know. I do. If you had been a barmaid as long as I was, you would know too. Oh, were you a barmaid? For years, when I was younger than I am, at the Criterion. I dropped the shaker. There, she said, pointing the moral. That's from drinking that stuff. Makes your hand wobble. What I always used to say to the boys was, port if you like. Port is wholesome. I appreciate a bit of port myself. But these new-fangled messes from America, no. But they would never listen to me. I was eyeing her warily. Of course, there must have been thousands of barmaids at the Criterion in its time. But still... when you were at the Cry, I said, did you ever happen to run into a fellow of my name? I've forgotten what it is. I'm always silly about names. Wooster. Wooster? When you were there yesterday, I thought you said Foster. Wooster? Did I run into a fellow named Wooster? Well... Why, George Wooster and me, Piggy I used to call him, were going off to the registrar's. Only his family heard of it and interfered. Oh, they offered me such a lot of money to give him up, and like a silly girl I let them persuade me. If I wondered once what became of him, I've wondered 1,000 times. Is he a relation of yours? Excuse me, I said. I just want a word with Jeeves. I legged it for the pantry. Jeeves? Sir? Do you know what's happened? No, sir. This female? Sir? She's Uncle George's barmaid. Sir? Oh, dash it, you must have heard of Uncle George's barmaid. You know all the family history. Ah, yes, sir. She's the only woman he's ever loved. He's told me so 1,000,000 times. Every time he gets to the 4th whiskey and potash, he always becomes maudlin about this female. What a dash bit of bad luck. The first thing we know, the call of the past will be echoing in his heart. I can feel it, Jeeves. She's just his sort. You know, the first thing she did when she came in was to start talking about the lining of her stomach. You see the hideous significance of that, Jeeves. The lining of his stomach is Uncle George's favourite topic of conversation. This woman, and he'll be like a deep calling to deep, sir. Exactly. Most disturbing, sir. What's to be done? I couldn't say, sir. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Phone him and say the lunch is off. Scarcely feasible, sir. I fancy that is his lordship at the door now. And so it was.